Good day to everybody. Welcome to the 12th IEEE Annual Computing and Communication Workshop and Conference at 2022 at USA. Our paper title is Best Practice to Secure API Implementation in Core Banking in Banks. The authors are as Mahabubul Alam and myself, Muhammad Abul Kalam Azad and Shaukat Ali. Abstract. The use of application programming interface API is showing a world of feasible outcome for different industries, especially financial institutions. API is very easy to integrate into the application. That's why use of API is increasing day by day, and it's become quite popular for financial organization, especially bank in different organizations to pop up external feature and integrate with other solution in the banking needs. In introduction, API actually defines the software and external program, how it will interact with core banking system or any other core system. It works as a middleware something to interact between core software and other external software. So in this API, security should be well addressed, such because attacker or malicious code can be inserted into the system through API. So we should be very careful for the security in terms of confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Both things we need to consider for API security. So in this paper, we'll walk through how API is working and API connected to our core system, and whatever security need we need to address for the API, that all this will be addressed. So if you want to look into the API connectivity, you can see its API works as a middleware between two applications. One application can be internal application, another application can be our external application. So when external application like to access some data from the internal application, it's connected through API, application programming interface. So here in core banking system or banking industry, we use core banking solution as a core system for the banking industry. So API is used to connect with the CBS software and get data or feature functionality from this application to serve the customer. And API connectivity, we see two things. One is OSDL, which actually define the API means web service. It's called is web service descriptor language. And another terminology we use is UDDI. UDDI is Universal Discovery Description and Integration. Like UDDI publish the available API for some organization, some industry, and it's like work like a directory. From this directory, user can pick up suitable API for their needs, and based on that needs, they integrate this API into their application to connect to other solution or external system. We find four types of API. One is open API, which is open for everybody, like everybody can access this API, they can integrate this API into their system. Then we found partner API, means for group of people or group of organizations, they develop their own API, and this API can be accessible through this group only or through this partner only. And we found internal API, like one organization develop their own API. This API can be accessed or they can be integrated into their organization only itself, so it cannot be exposed to other external organization. And finally, we find composite API, which is a mix of internal or external, like they can use for both internal purpose, they can be used for external purpose as well. Sometimes it can be open for public also. Let's give a light into the API architecture. We find two types of API. One is REST, another is SOAP. REST is called representative state actions. It is more stable and it is more elastic, like it can be expandable, it can be, but can go vertically along with horizontally. Nowadays, more organization is using REST API based on its elasticity and interoperability. And we also find SOAP, Simple Object Access Protocol, which is built on actually XML envelope, and through this envelope they transfer this message in terms of XML format. And for the both API, like REST API, we use TLS encryption for passing data in between, but for SOAP we use HTTP, which is very common for internet. Now I like to give a highlights whatever API is used in banking industry. Like first of all, we see ATM for transaction, all these things. ATM use few API for interact with their core banking system, like getting balance of the customer, getting customer transaction done, and transferring money, all these things. So ATM is used few API for along with the core banking system. And similarly, there are API for POS, point of sale. When customer go to the shops, they purchase something, they produce the card. Then this card system connect with the core banking system through API. So they actually work in between card management system and core banking system. And definitely we find API for batch, like automatic clearing, means when we customer submit the check to the bank, so clearing the account they use API. Similar happen RTGS, real time gross settlement, when customer like to transfer money from one bank to another bank, one account to another through real time, so they use. Nowadays, mobile apps is quite popular in that region, and especially in that developing countries. So when we use mobile application, we need to connect with the core banking system along with the card management system and some other internal application of the organization. So we need lots of API for connecting with this system. And definitely we are using mobile wallet, which have broader aspect of mobile apps, which can include lots of API. And you see the mobile financial system means mobile banking through small application. We can, it's work as a like a wallet, so it's use also the lots of API. So these are the common API which is used in the banking industry and quite familiar. And like one more thing, so we like to give a highlights on call center. When customer make a call to the bank's call center, the call center executive need to see his account details or to verify his identity. So that time one API is used to verify customer identity. So in call center we see lots of API, and like a national ID card verification. When customer opens the account into the bank, we need to verify the customer identity. So like in that time we need to call some external API, like NID verification is a government solution. We need to call that government API to verify national ID card of the customer. So all this type of API is quite common in Bangladesh. So we'll give more highlights on how can we secure this type of API into the banking system. Now we'll look into the benefit or advantages of API. Using API, we can see we can automate easily. Like we can use external API instead of developing new feature, or we can use the existing feature. Like we can increase the scope of the application. It can definitely increase our efficiency, and integration is will be very easy for that thing API. Otherwise, previously when we like to integrate something, it was quite cumbersome to integrate other application or non-standard application. But using API, we can easily integrate non-standard application also. As API open lots of scope, it comes with lots of vulnerability and threat. First of all, we see denial of service attack is very common in the API. Cross-site scripting, SQL injection, it's come through the API. Parameter attack, like in API we pass different parameters, so in that parameter malicious code can be injected in that API. So it's a very common attack in the API. Malicious code injection, something like SQL injection, but instead of only SQL injection, you just push lots of malicious thing. Identity and session set, like for using API, we need to have some identity. If there is identity spoof or session hijacking, that can be a big vulnerability for API. Let of break limited session or QS, like we are using several API. If all API call the source, then it will be exhausted system. So we need to limit the rate of the users of resource. And finally, service information leakage. All the API using, they are getting lots of data. How the data will be consumed is a big concern nowadays. In this research work, we have done a study for 35 banks in Bangladesh. And from the 35 banks, we got a response from 25 banks, about 60% response rate. We ask or review their system for API security, whatever security they are using in their API consumption or API distribution. We studied that information and we do a little bit details analysis into their infrastructure and whatever security measure they are implementing in their API. So in that research, we are presenting this work. Firstly, we identify what type of API they are using. In majority case, we found 68% using partner and internal APIs, means they are using their internal API along with their partners API. And 16% we found they are using partner API, internal API, and public API also, means they are using all types of it. And the 16% only using their internal API. So this is the result, means we found there lots of people are using their partner API, which is some sort of external API there, and secondly public API is used. We consider the API security versus web security. When we studied their response, we found that only 30% say they treat API security other than web security, and they don't differentiate, and which is the majority part, which is 51%, doesn't differentiate API security versus web security. So like API, they are treating something like as webs. So they are not differentiating, so they are not putting any extra control for API security, which is 51% of the responder. What are the main concerns for API security? And that 52% mostly respond compromising the system. They concern about the compromising the system, and 16% they think data leakage can be the major concern for API security in the banking industry. And as we all know, using gateway can enhance API security a lot. We asked the question to different participants, and only we found 18% they are using API gateway to manage API in proxy level, such that to protect and enhance security. And 66%, which is the major proportion, they don't use any API gateway, or they don't think it is applicable for their infrastructure, which is alarming. And finally, based on their response, based on their infrastructure review, we identify similar few risks and fixed recommendation for the banking infrastructure to secure their API. Like first of all, our recommendation is to create a API security policy for banking industry, such that which will include the API control, all control, applicable control, and if they apply this policy, that can enhance the security. And second is the do risk assessment. When one organization using API or giving access to API, they should do the risk assessment to identify the proper risks, and accordingly they should put the control. And definitely API gateway, one of the major thing we need to implement. It is our recommendation to implement API gateway, which will connect all API as a proxy or the reverse proxy, and from this API gateway, all external party will be connected. And the layered defense, like other web or all these things, we need to enforce the layered defense. And API gateway should be keeping the DMZ zone. These are the few recommendations from our side to implement strong security for the API. And few other things like the monitoring and auditing log to preserve log of the API, and definitely resource and late limitation, how we can limit the resource and late. And we should definitely publish the API inventory, and it will be better if we can implement automated deployment, like API when we deploy rather than implementing by human resources, should be automated deployed. And always when we are using API, it should be restricted based on authentication and authorization. Some, if possible, restriction should be provided on IP, geolocation, and MAC ID based, which will increase the security of the API. At the conclusion, we like to mention that we should develop high standard for API security, which should be implemented across the organization. And by following this standard or proactive measure, we can really enhance the security and protect our API from breach or external party malware or anything which is harmful for organization. And an organization continue to break down large application into microservice such that they can provide service to other through API. Microservice based application is more leverage to API, which is will also increase the security. The all this recommendation and conclusion will really will be helpful for the organization to enhance their security in the API perspective. And we author feel that this type of security and control measure can be helpful for financial organization to protect their asset from external along with internal hacker. Thank you attendance. Good day to everybody.